By the end of the Naruto manga, Naruto Uzumaki finished the series as arguably the strongest person left alive, with only Sasuke Uchiha hoping to rival his power. However, what if Naruto was given the Rinnegan by Nagato after the events of the Pain arc? Just how different would the Naruto story be? Well, in part 1 of this series, we looked at how drastically the story changed from the Pain arc all the way up until the end of the War arc. Well, in part 2, we're going to continue the story, so obviously if you've not seen part 1, I highly recommend doing so. Now, without further ado, let's dive into part 2 of what if Naruto got Nagato's Rinnegan. In the time after the war, not much would change. Naruto having the Rinnegan means that he likely rounds up the rogue ninja who made up the Armament Alliance that carried out the massacre that happens in the Land of Waves that happened in the events of the Kakashi Hida novel. Naruto likely prevents this because he captures these ninja a lot faster, and the story progresses much the same until we get to the events of Naruto the Last. Because Naruto had the Rinnegan and Kaguya's revival wasn't even close to being carried out like it was in the original timeline, things changed drastically. However, the novelization for Naruto the Last does make it pretty clear that Toneri eventually would come to Earth to make Hinata his bride. If Toneri still comes to Earth at the exact same time, then there's a strong chance he goes forward with the plan to destroy all life on Earth, because in the novel, part of his goal was to recreate human life on the planet in the image of himself and his new bride Hinata. Naruto having the Rinnegan means that the puppets Toneri deploys are likely taken down with relative ease, though Hanabi is still likely taken by Toneri in all of the chaos. Kakashi will still assemble the same team to go after Hanabi. Where there appears to be a major change is if Sasuke is released from prison in order to help destroy the meteors that are falling towards the Earth. Now, in my opinion, as cool as it would be to see EMS Sasuke, seeing him go through the air using his perfect Susanoo and destroying the meteors that are crashing down towards the Earth, I don't think the story even progresses to this point in the timeline, and I don't mean that in a negative way, and I'll explain to you why. So Naruto having the Rinnegan on top of his KCM changes everything. When Toneri tries to make off with Hinata, Naruto could just as easily block the Tenseigan energy blast with his almighty push, which means that Naruto's chakra is never depleted to near absolute zero, and Sakura wouldn't spend the next 2 days replenishing Naruto's chakra and then taking a whole extra day just to recover her own chakra. However, I will concede that Toneri's Tenseigan blast is a bit tricky to account for when you look at the mechanics of that jutsu. So on top of absorbing nearly all of the energy and nearly all of the life force of the person, it's also powerful enough that at its maximum output it can destroy a large portion of the moon. However, given that this is a chakra based attack, Naruto's Rinnegan should have a couple of defenses to it. I already mentioned using the almighty push, but Naruto could also use the Predator Path, since the Predator Path should be able to absorb the jutsu, since in of itself the jutsu is nothing but pure chakra. Going with this line of thinking, Naruto likely gets Toneri on the ground, and after freeing Hinata, Naruto's shadow clones will box Toneri in and activate their KCM2 cloaks. In the blink of an eye, the clones would simultaneously use almighty push to crush Toneri's body from all sides, creating a giant crater in the process, shaking the surrounding landscape. After using the King of Hell on Toneri, Naruto will learn of both the Tenseigan chakra bomb that is located on the moon, and he would learn what Toneri intended to do, and he would learn exactly where Hanabi was stashed away on Toneri's moon base. After having Sakura rip out Toneri's eyes, Naruto would order the team to stand back. Still in his KCM2 mode, Naruto would clasp his hands together and causing the entire continent itself to shake as he began to trap Toneri in a gigantic Chibaku Tensei, crushing him to death. From here, the team would take Toneri's moon transportation device all the way to the moon, where one team would locate Hanabi and return her eyes to her skull, and Naruto and Hinata would lead the other team to the Tenseigan energy vessel. This means that the meteors that are traveling towards the Earth would no longer be a threat, and Naruto would likely return to Earth as the hero who saved the world in less than 2 years. At this point, the story progresses much the same. Naruto still marries Hinata, and after one night where reason gave way to passion, after Naruto forgot to pull out Hinata, the two would accidentally conceive everyone's favorite son, Boruto Uzumaki. However, where there's a major change would be in the events before Boruto the movie. By the time Naruto becomes Hokage, due to Sasuke being locked up in prison for the entire 10-year run of Kakashi as Hokage, Sasuke wouldn't be released from prison until this very moment. The reason why this is so critical is that shortly after Naruto became Hokage, Sasuke Uchiha appeared before the 5 Kage with the intel that led him to requesting to further search Kaguya's ruins for answers about our clan. Because Sasuke's been in jail for the past 10 years and he would not have the Rinnegan, there would be no one to search Kaguya's ruins, and under this scenario, unless Toneri mentioned Kaguya to Naruto, which he would have no incentive to actually do, Naruto would have no knowledge about Kaguya's existence. Another major change that would occur is that after waiting 10 years for her precious Sasuke-kun to be released from prison, Sakura would give birth to Madara Uchiha several years later in the timeline than she did originally. This means that Boruto would be 7 years older than Sarada, and Himawari would be 5 years older than Sarada, and that's only if Sasuke is released from prison in February of that year and Sarada is born between November and December. Another major change that would occur in this timeline is that Sakura wouldn't be known as the winner of the contest to be Sasuke's single mother to his child, because Sasuke likely wouldn't leave the village to start his redemption journey. He would have had 10 years locked away in a cell to reflect and think about his past. Another major change that would occur would be Naruto's Hokage would likely summon the Gidomazu statue and release the Biju that were sealed away by the Akatsuki. Naruto would have had over 10 years to master the Rinnegan, which means that Naruto would likely have the skill to do so, even if in typical Naruto fashion, Naruto had to fumble through error in order to pull off the feat. This means that each of the ninja villages would be given back the missing Biju. However, with Naruto being a Jinchuriki himself, I believe Naruto would only do so on the condition that none of the Kages and village leaders forced another human to become a Jinchuriki. As Naruto released the chakra of the Biju, it's possible, since his own chakra would be linked to the Gidomazu statue, to unseal the Biju, that parts of the Biju chakra could touch his own chakra, which means Naruto would now be in possession of chakra from all 9 Biju. This means that Naruto would now have met one of the requirements to gain his Sage of Six Paths mode as well as his Sage of Six Paths chakra mode. By the time Momoshiki invades the village, another major change would occur. While Naruto would be significantly more powerful, now having both his Sage of Six Paths mode and his Sage of Six Paths chakra mode, he would also have the Rinnegan on top of this. Despite having 5 years to train, Sasuke with only EMS would be extremely far behind Naruto in terms of power. Where things get really tricky is Momoshiki attacking the Chunin exams. If Momoshiki manages to capture Naruto, then there's no one who's able to open the portal to rescue Naruto. If that ever happens, then Momoshiki would win the fight. However, Naruto having Rinnegan changes everything. After Naruto battles Momoshiki and Kinshiki very briefly, Momoshiki would likely use his Reign of the High Emperor jutsu. Upon seeing the massive ball of chakra coming crashing down towards the arena, Naruto will be in a much better position than he was originally, and I'll explain to you guys why. In the original timeline, Naruto had to expend quite a bit of the Kyuubi's chakra, both to hold off the attack and defend the village from being destroyed by the blast. Even Sasuke noted that if Naruto wasn't worried about the villagers, then he could have deflected the blast with relative ease. In this new timeline, this new souped up version of Naruto would be able to use levitation like Pain to fly towards the blast, or use the Sage of Six Paths chakra mode to fly up towards the blast as well. Entering into a Sage of Six Paths chakra mode, Naruto's Rinnegan eyes would narrow as he used the Preta Path to absorb the Reign of the Emperor jutsu. At this point, Naruto by himself would be able to manhandle both Momoshiki and Kinshiki, since originally Naruto with only 50% of his chakra body fused Momoshiki in the movie and in the manga, and in the novelization he was stated by Fused Momoshiki to be regarded as his equal. Well, this version of Naruto would have no trouble because he'd be significantly stronger and he'd be at 100% power. Where I see a major change occurring would be the death of Momoshiki. Staying in character, Naruto will kill if push came to shove. However, as we know from the war arc, Sasuke Uchiha has no problem waiting until all the damage is done to somebody to step in to kill them. He would have killed Obito if Kakashi and Minato hadn't stepped in. He would have killed Madara if the Sage of Six Paths hadn't stopped him. And if Naruto hadn't beat sense into him, Sasuke would have executed the 5 Kage while they were still trapped in the Infinite Tsukuyomi. Now in this timeline, I see Sasuke being the one to kill Momoshiki if we're keeping the characters in character, which means that as Sasuke sliced off the head of Momoshiki with his sword, Sasuke would be the one given the Karma Seal. And that's where we're gonna bring this what if to a close. Now as a challenge to you guys, if we can get this video to 2,000 likes, then I'll go ahead and make part 3 to what if Naruto got Nagato's Rinnegan, which I'm gonna tell you right now is gonna be absolutely insane, which I already have written out, and it goes all the way up to the events of the latest Boruto manga chapter, Boruto chapter 44. Now, as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.